what were some of the challenges you faced as a, let's say, the CEO,
Yep.
as a principal? You know, it's basically the same thing, right? You're leading. So what were some of the challenges that you faced when you were here? And then how well or how good have you been able to instill that vision and those principles onto other people and, you know, the staff?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I'd like to sort of preface my comments in not being critical of anyone who's gone before me, because I think, you know, other leaders have, you know, led in their own unique way and served for that period of time. But I think when I came in, I think there wasn't a focus that was as strong as it could have been. I think there'd been a level of mediocrity that had crept in around performance. So whether that was academic performance or sporting or music, that there was a little bit like, you know, we'll give it a shot, but we're not really focused on being the best we can be, and even understanding what that could be, what that looks like. And so because of that, there wasn't the preparation. And as I mentioned earlier, you know, you only become good at something because you do the work beforehand. And, you know, if you want to become a good rower, you got to work for years on technique, on fitness, on, you know, mental strength, all that sort of stuff. So that doesn't happen because a week beforehand you decide, you know, you want to win. So I think there was something around that performance culture that needed to be addressed. And again, I don't think there was a focus on how we prioritize. And again, for me, I found that the college had been through a tough few decades financially, and they probably hadn't invested in the physical environment as well. So the school was looking pretty tired. It didn't have a lot of sort of imagery or, you know, like pictures. Like there were no pictures on the walls, you know, around past generations or other boys that had been successful, you know, or different things, and yet they had been. So there wasn't a lot to celebrate. And for me, it was sort of taking all of those things, as well as I think some behavioural slackness. I think when you don't keep boys focused on striving for excellence, then they'll strive for whatever standard you set. And so if the standard is striving for being average, they'll become average. If it's striving for not trying at all, then they won't try at all. So for the hardest thing I found was coming into an environment and basically saying, you know, my standard's up here. And if my standard's up here, your standard's up here as well. That, like, this is not our goal. And so I think in those early years, there was a bit of criticism about that. There were people, you know, some people criticised me. I was only focused on winning. And the fact is, I'm not focused on winning. I'm focused on being the most competitive you can be at any moment in time. And if that leads to a win, great. If it doesn't, that's great. You've given your heart and soul. We can't ask you more from that. So I think when you've been playing down in this space and then someone's asking you to step up there, there can be a lot of excuses. And that's where that resilience piece comes through. Like it took years of just pushing, not accepting excuses, finding people who wanted to come on the journey, who really believed that's where we should be. And I had some amazing, you know, staff join us. We had staff who were here who it was almost like that's where they wanted to go, and they just needed someone to take them there and encourage them to go there. So, you know, I think culture then becomes, you know, the way we do things around here. It's the ethos, it's the values, it sort of encapsulates the quality of experience that you expect, and it's usually very clear around what you won't tolerate. And I think when new staff and new students come into a school with a really strong culture, they usually come in and they look around and they get a feel for the place pretty quickly. And then they'll just start behaving exactly the way you're supposed to be behaving, because they That's the way you do things around here. So if you don't have a strong culture, then it's like find your own level.
Hi all, this is Nish, Director, CEO and Lawyer from Professional Visa and Education Services. This is a quick review on the job that the Rubasha family's been doing with us, and we've been working together for almost a year now. I've been receiving a lot of support from himself, just the dedication and commitment for him to come to our office once a week, every week, and just spending that time understanding the nature of the business we do, also engage with our team members, and also trying to understand the service and the product that we provide to our consumer. I think that has been the great value add for us whenever we're making a video, because it's not about just making a content, but it's about making a content by the content creator, which is more connected to their client. You have done the good job, mate, and keep up the good work.
Find your own standard, and they'll just find their own group of kids and do whatever those kids do. So we have to work really hard to make the Scots culture the predominant culture, and not a collection of little subgroups that are doing their own thing. And I think that's where that persistent leadership, the persistent messaging, persistent naming of excellence when you see it, and things that aren't excellent, but trying to be generous in that. I think sometimes there are people who try really hard, but maybe they can't deliver. But if they try, I love that, right? That's all I ask. Just put your heart into it. Give me your best. And if we're not successful, we don't win, that's okay. We'll work out. Maybe we'll pad our team out a little bit more, and we'll think of new ways of doing it. So I think, there's kind of the performance edge, but there's the cultural edge, and you've got to link those two together. And I think that's why one of the things that in our language I talked about very early is around excellence, but we actually talk about excellence through teams. So the idea is not every student will end up with an amazing, academic score, or won't play for the top level sporting team, or may not make the school orchestra, but they can do things together with other boys and try and achieve excellence together. So I think there's a life lesson in that one of the most important things you do in leadership is be really clear about your own weaknesses and be clear about your strengths, and play to your strengths all the time. Don't play to your weaknesses. Be humble enough to recognize that you need some other people around you to complement your leadership. So you're always developing a team-based leadership model. And that's true for me, right? I am not the strongest detail administrator. Like, I will not sit at my computer all day and run through spreadsheets, but I will make sure I've got some amazing people who jump out of bed every day and love doing that, right? And they know how to give me the executive summary. They know how to put that in front of me, which frees me up to kind of play in the space I want to play in. And I think that's a really good lesson in leadership. Sometimes I think, the concept of the hero leader of, I've got to be all things to all people and just do it on my own is not a great model. Sometimes it happens. You can get people who do remarkable things, but the trouble is with that, when they leave, there's a huge vacuum. There's no talent. And one of my things, I guess, when I finish here, I'm hoping that there'll be such a deep talent pool here that it probably doesn't matter who comes in next, that these people will drive. They'll drive that culture and drive the performance, because they hand on heart believe that it's important and reflects the Scots College that they believe it should be. And the new leader will come in and put their focus and their tweaks on it, but hopefully that identity, that brand, those values will kind of last for a long time.
If you really enjoyed this video, make sure to click here, and I'm sure you're going to love that one.